From Chesapeake, Virginia, WHKT presents Sports Scene. Sports Scene features local, regional, and nationally acclaimed guests and excellent interviews. Follow Sports Scene on Twitter at Greg Bick. Now here is Greg Bicouvaris.
And thank you very much, Joe Daniel. We are live as always on this beautiful October 18th. Sports Scene is an interview show each Wednesday from 12 to 1. Also watch sports highlights on nnpstv.com. Tell your friends about gjbtv.com. Twitter at Greg Bick, and you can see the rest of my Twitter handles on gjbtv.com in the contact section. Thank you to our military for what you do 24/7. Guest lineup presented by Outback Steakhouse in Kempsville. Sponsors on gjbtv.com, marketplace sponsors, and HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com. Phone line presented by Mi Casita Mexican Restaurant with 2 locations in Virginia Beach. Show presented by HRSMHOF.com. Baseball postseason is heating up. Old Dominion continues to struggle in college football. UVA and Ohio State are doing very well. Redskins are 3-2 going into their big showcase against the Eagles on Monday night on the road. And, of course, Gordon Hayward for the Celtics had a big injury last night. We wish him well. Great interviews, business segments, highlights, commentary, what teased me off. Thank you for making the habit to listen to Sports Scene Weekly, and we love our regulars and newcomers. Of course, Joe McIlvaine, the former New York Mets general manager, will be our featured guest after these messages right here on Sports Scene.
Catch up on archived editions of Sports Scene by going to gjbtv.com and clicking the YouTube image on the homepage. Now back to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris.
All right, welcome back to 1650 AM, 92.5 FM. TuneIn.com, type in WHKT right now to listen on your phone or your computer. This will be archived on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube a little bit later. At Greg Bick on Twitter, GREGBIC. Met this gentleman during the summer at the Norfolk Tides game, accomplished former player for the Tigers, scout for the Orioles, Angels, the Brewers over the years, former Mets assistant general manager and general manager, as well as the San Diego Padres, and of course has been involved with the Twins in Seattle and several other ball clubs. Let's welcome Joe McIlvaine. How are you, Joe?
Good, Greg. Nice to talk to you.
Very good, very good. Before we get into your career, just a little bit, just your thoughts so far. The Astros and Yankees are turning out to be a very good series so far. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I haven't gotten the opportunity to see too much of it because I'm out here in Phoenix watching the Arizona Fall League. It seems like the games we're seeing out here conflict with the games that are on the thing. But I did see a little bit of yesterday's game, and it tuned in when the Yankees were behind. And by the time we got out of the restaurant we were eating in before the game, the Yankees had taken the lead. And looks like Todd Frazier's having the time of his life. He was I remember him when he was in the Little League World Series. It looks like he's having just as much fun out there with this as he did then. So it's an interesting matchup because the Astros they got off to a great start, and the Yankees, just like they did against Cleveland, got themselves down into a hole, and here they are fighting out. Now they've got the series even. It's a 3-game series.
Right, of course. Fox Sports 1's got it today at 5:08. Dodgers seem like they're on a mission, Joe, up 3-0 in the Cubs.
Well, it's interesting that the 2 World Series participants from 2016, one is already out, upset by the Yankees, and the other's teetering on the edge. So it's what a difference a year can make, and it just shows you really how hard it is, I guess, to repeat and to stay up there for a period of time with free agency and all the other things that go into it. And it makes the Giants' accomplishments of the last 7-8 years even that more remarkable that they could win 3 times in a 5-year span.
Right, talking to Joe McIlvaine. Joe, when you were the Mets general manager, of course, interleague play was just pretty much getting started in the 90s. What were your thoughts when you played the Yankees, and how was that rivalry really more intense back then, you think, since it was new?
Well, it's hard for me to say because I'm not in New York right now, but it certainly was a fan treat. I think part of the idea of interleague play was to give the fans the opportunity to see the other league. I know growing up in Philadelphia when I was a kid, you never saw the other league, and you always wish you could because there were so many good players, obviously. And I think that when baseball put that idea together, that was the idea, was that, you would get to see, if you lived in a one city, especially if you lived in a one city market, you get the opportunity to see players from the other league. And I think it's worked out beneficially because they haven't overkilled it, where it's 18 games a year basically, and that's it. And I think that's the key, is not overkilling it.
Right. We're talking to Joe McIlvaine, former New York Mets general manager from 93 to 97, also with the Padres as well. The baseball game, you look at the Nationals, of course, one of the favorites around this area, them and the Baltimore Orioles both, and it's just so intense, for them to even win a series. They have not done it in the postseason. And, Rizzo is scratching his head. You've been in his shoes as the general manager, where Dusty was really questioned a lot with some of his pitchers as well. He did not play Rourke at all during the series, and that baffled a lot of people, and especially in this area, when the Nationals always seem to get close, but no cigar advancing to the postseason.
Well, there's some teams that are like that. They just seem like they get a little snake bitten, and it's not the quality of the talent or anything else. Sometimes those things just happen and it just isn't meant to be. And I guess that was the case this year. I didn't really get to see their games, so I can't really comment exactly what happened. But sometimes it's inexplicable. It just happens, and it just seems to work against you. But, Mike Rizzo is a good general manager, and he's going to be scratching his head, as you say, but he's going to come up with what he thinks is a creative solution, or maybe a trade or two that he thinks will benefit the team and maybe make a difference next year.
Yeah, he's already talking about getting rid of Worth. We'll see what happens there. But you've been around some very good managers, too, in your time as well. And the baseball game has just changed. And I'm not a big fan of these analytics. I still think it comes down to pitchers having the proper rest. But it seemed like back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they could handle a 4-day break. Now they need a 5- and 6-day break, as well as a 5- and 6-man rotation.
Well, you're right. I think the biggest change in the game right now is pitchers just not going into the game as deep as they used to. You didn't have to use your pen as much as you do now. Your pen guys are in more danger of getting hurt now than your starters, it seems like, because they're in there 3 and 4 times a week. And whereas your starter gets in there for 5 or 6, it seems like, and then he's got 5 days off, So I think that what I would like to see in baseball would be starters to go a longer distance. It would, they're so concerned about the length of the game and all too that that's a boon to that, because it doesn't mean that the manager has to keep coming out and making pitching changes in the middle of innings. So I think that if we could go back to one thing that we used to do, it would be lengthening out starting pitchers.
I do a lot of stage managing work for Fox, and we had the game with the Nationals and the Dodgers back on September the 16th, and I was right there by the dugout for the Dodgers, and I could just tell that day how close that team was. You have to be buttoned up, like you said, whether it's the pitching staff, the hitters. You have to get along because you spend so much time together. You know this, on a ball club, from preseason to training and all that stuff, to off-season conditioning, to the regular season, the travel, the road. I mean, you're on the road a lot. You have to get along with your players. And I think, the teams that are doing well consistently year in and year out, like the Dodgers and the Cubs, it's great managers, great harmony from the general managers all the way down.
Yeah, that helps. Sometimes, though, you have rebel teams. I think the 86 Mets were a little bit of a rebel team, and the Oakland A's in the early 70s were certainly a rebel type of team. But you're right. You spend so much time with your contemporaries, managers, and everybody else. And the key to being a good manager, really, in that situation is knowing the 25 players that you have there and treating each of them differently. And I remember I played for Jim Leland back a long time ago when he was a young manager in the minor leagues. And I remember coming up to him when he was managing the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he had Barry Bonds and he had Bobby Bonilla. And I said, boy, sometimes that Bonds can be hard to handle, I guess, huh? And he says, no, he's easy. It's Bonilla that's hard. I said, why is that? He says, because every day he comes in, you have to pat him on the rear end and tell him how good he is. And he says, sometimes that gets a little tough. But if that's the way you're going to get maximum production out of a player, that's what you need to do as a manager.
Speaking of that maximum production, as we're talking to Joe McIlvaine, the former New York Mets general manager, exclusively right here on Sports Scene 1650 AM, 92.5 FM. Glad you're with us. Greg Bicouvaris and Joe Daniel. That, let's say when you were the Mets GM, you'd looked at the tides a lot because it was a perfect 1 hour flight from here to Norfolk to New York and so forth. And you saw a lot of the AAA players going to the majors. Now, do you see more of your talent as a scout? Is it the high school level that you're trying to get somebody, college, or developing in them in the minors? What's the pecking order, I'd say?
Well, the most important area is still amateur scouting, because that's where your players are going to come out through the draft. And you build a good team through your farm system because you have control of those players. You bring them up and you have 6 years in the big leagues with them. So it's still probably the most important area of scouting. The professional side, obviously these players have already been signed. They begin to establish a track record. It's a little easier to scout the professional players than it is the amateur players. And that's why I think the emphasis for most teams needs to be more on that amateur side, because that's where you're going to get your players from. There's also the international side. And if you talk to 30 teams, you're going to get 30 theories on it. But, some have worked very well in the Asian end of it. Some have worked very well in the Latin American end of it or the Canadian end of it. Or it's just there's a lot of ways you can acquire talent. And Latin America and the Far East are certainly good supplements to the players from the United States.
You've been in baseball your entire adult life. You still have that fire and that desire like you did, let's say, back when you played for the Tigers or when you were an assistant general manager with the Mets?
Absolutely.
That's great.
Every day is different, and every day is a challenge, and you never know what each day is going to present itself. And I think that's one of the keys in life, is variety. When you go to a job, you never know what's going to happen every day, and that always makes it interesting.
Right, and players blow up, they argue, but to me, that's a great place to blow off the steam is when you're playing a sporting event, unopposed to being in a 9-to-5 cubicle where so many people get in trouble during the workday. Speaking of which, managers doing blow up, how did you manage the egos of Dallas Green and Bobby Valentine?
Yeah, I put Davey Johnson in there, too.
Wow, yeah.
They're all really good baseball men, and you have to give them some room and let them operate because they have proven track records. They can take sometimes a player that's maybe mediocre and make them better than that. And that's the key to the manager, is utilizing what he has and getting the maximum out of it. And all three of them were good at that. And, sometimes they weren't the easiest guys in the world to get along with. But at the same time, they only had one objective, and it was to make their team and their players better. And as a general manager, or as a scouting director, or as a farm director, or whatever you might be, your object is the same. And the key thing is working cohesively together to produce the best product.
Right, talking to Joe McIlvaine, Greg Bicouvaris, glad you're with us. It's lunchtime reminder. Little Tokyo Buffet is open. Hibachi, noodle soup, sushi bar and buffet bar, 49 West Mercury Boulevard. Give them a call at 325-8286. Open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. Little Tokyo Buffet. Go by there today. Talking to Joe McIlvaine, glad you're with us right here on Sports Scene. Of course, this will be archived later at gjbtv.com by hitting the YouTube link. How about Jim Riggleman? You also dealt with him a lot as well, and of course the late Tony Gwynn. What's really sad about Tony Gwynn is he had great talent, one of the best hitters of all time. Was it the tobacco, the snuff that really got him? That's what killed him, it seemed like.
I think so. I'm not a doctor, so I can't say that, but he certainly was a big fan of the tobacco. But Tony was such a good individual person, and he was very eager to share what he had learned and he was a student of the game. He would study. If you watch Tony when he batted, between every pitch, he would take his front foot and put it on the line of the batter's box and survey where the infield was playing. And then he knew on the next pitch where he was looking for what pitch in what area so that he could drive the ball. Say if the shortstop was shading towards second base, he'd want to hit the ball between the shortstop and the third baseman because there was a bigger hole there. And that's the kind of hitter he was. And he could wait long on the pitch. He used a real light bat. He used about a 29, 30-ounce bat. And so he could wait on the pitch. And that's why he was such a good hitter. He had a plan every time. He knew what pitch he was looking for because he was trying to hit it into a certain area of the field where he felt like he had a better chance to get a hit. And he was very willing to share that with people. And he was just a shining example of a great player. One thing about him was he never struck out. Mm-hmm. I think one year, and some of those years, he struck out 20 times the whole year. Mm. And I hark back to Joe DiMaggio. I looked at his record one time, and he hit like 360 home runs or 61 home runs, I think, in his career, and he struck out like 365 times in his career. Mm. And, you won't find out with anybody today. The closest one to that is Tony Gwynn, or was Tony Gwynn.
Right. It's a pleasure to talk to Joe McIlvaine, the former New York Mets general manager, as well as San Diego Padres general manager as well. And, the Padres had a good stretch there back when, Garvey left the Dodgers, went to the Padres in the 80s with Tony Gwynn up until, Trevor Hoffman and, of course, Sheffield as well. And when Riggleman was manager, y'all had some pretty good teams.
Yeah, well, we made that trade with Toronto. It was probably one of the biggest trades of all time. We traded Carter and Alomar, and it really helped them win some World Series. But we got back McGriff and Fernandez, who were really productive for us. And in '92, when we traded for Sheffield, our first four in that lineup were the best four in the major leagues. We had Tony Fernandez leading off, Tony Gwynn hitting second, Gary Sheffield hitting third, and Fred McGriff hitting fourth. And no pitcher liked to go through those four hitters. And it was interesting because both Gwynn and Sheffield were low strikeout guys. They were going to put the ball in play. McGriff would strike out maybe 100 times, and Tony wouldn't strike out too much either. And that's such a stark contrast to what you're seeing today, where it's home run baseball, where these guys would put the ball in play all the time. And, if you put the ball in play, there's always a chance somebody's going to screw it up, And if you strike out, there's not much recourse.
You talk about some of the records and some of the great players like Tony Gwynn and some of the records like Cal Ripken's record for the consecutive streak and so forth. And you mentioned Bonds earlier. That's in the late 90s. We started hearing more about the steroids and so forth and kind of tarnishing the image of baseball. It seems like right now baseball is at a very good place, though. I mean, people love it. The ratings are excellent on Fox Sports 1 and TBS for the postseason. I think people are sick and tired of the drama of the NFL, and people are preferring baseball right now. It's a really nice thing.
Well, things go like that. There's always periods of time where one sport jumps ahead of the others, and certainly I'm partial toward the baseball side, so I'm happy to see that and glad to see that. You mentioned Cal Ripken. I'll tell you an interesting story about Cal. When Cal was a senior in high school, he was about 6'1" or 2", and maybe he weighed about 185, I don't know, something like that. But he was a pitcher infielder, and the Orioles had 4 picks in the second round in that particular year. I think it was 78. They had 4 picks, and he was the fourth of 4 picks. His father, you remember, was Cal Ripken Sr., who worked for the Orioles, managed for the Orioles, but worked for the Orioles probably for 30 years. The Orioles come in to sign him, and Cal says to them, Sr., says, he'll sign, but you got to try him first as a position player because it's easier to make the transition from position player to pitcher than the other way around. Now, the Orioles liked him better as a pitcher, but he was about 6'2" or so, or 6'1" and 175, 80 pounds. And they said, all right, if that's what it's going to take to sign him, we'll play him as a position player. So he went to Bluefield, West Virginia, and he did okay his first year out as a high school kid. The next year, though, now Cal Ripken Sr. was 5'9", and his wife, Vi, was 5'5". And the next year, Cal Ripken shows up in spring training at 6'4" and 205 pounds.
Wow.
And it was nobody could believe it because his father's 5'9", his mother's 5'5". Turns out his mother's brothers were 6'4" and 6'5". And Billy, his brother, who and you've seen,
sure,
5'9". He's 5'9", like his father. But Cal was kind of the freak. He's the one that got the mother's genes on her side, and consequently, he never pitched a game in pro ball. But it was just, I think, the insistence of his father that was the key thing there. And I know I've always tried to follow that advice because it is easier to transition a guy from position player to pitcher than the other way around.
Right, and I want to get one more note on Cal before we go to the next topic and let you go here in just a second. But, when he played back in the 80s and the 90s and the early part of the 21st century, the fields were not as good back then. I mean, the fields, a lot of AstroTurf on the road, a lot more divots on the field. Where he played at Memorial Stadium was not the best field in the world. And a lot of the old places like Shea Stadium, you saw it firsthand. I mean, what he persevered on his knees, his ankles, and his feet is amazing.
Yeah. You can't deny that. He never seemed to get a bad hop either. And I think about the young Latin infielders from the Dominican Republic, and when they were growing up, they couldn't afford baseball gloves, so they used to take cardboard and they would fashion themselves something that looked like a glove, and they would go out when they were 12 years old and 13 years old with these little cardboard gloves and field with these cardboard gloves, so that by the time when they got a little older, they were able to come up with a glove. It was easy for them because when you're catching a ball with a glove and then you're catching a ball with a little piece of cardboard, it's a whole lot different. And Cal kind of reminded me a little bit of that. He just had really soft hands. He never seemed to get a bad hop.
You're a senior advisor, player personnel with the Orioles. Tell us about your day-to-day duties.
Well, mine are varied. I work in the amateur side from a lot of times February to June, sometimes shorter than that. It depends what the needs are. I work on the pro end of it, and I do Latin America quite a bit. So I'm down there about 3 or 4 times a year as well. So it's just duties are varied. This year, I went out and I did some of the Pacific Coast League, then I did the National League East. And about July, then I started the spot players. I would go look at this player from this team and this player from this team in anticipation of trades or acquisitions. And, I've done quite a bit of that since July this year.
Right, I'm sure we could talk to you forever. We'll get you back on here again in a few months. But, we live in a very politically correct world. You saw where Cam Newton, I don't know if you noticed, for the Carolina Panthers, discredited a female reporter for asking a question. I mean, you look back in the day, you remember Dave Kingman. He had no respect for none of the media, whether it was man or female.
Yeah. Well, look, people are just doing their jobs, and you owe them that. If they're doing their job and they're conscientious about their job, you owe them that. And I think that if you can't do that, then, I think, what are you going to say? Right. It's just you as a reporter and a talk show host and everything else, you find out a lot about people, that their public image and their private image suddenly don't always jive.
What I think is a lot of head coaches, whether it's baseball, football, or basketball, don't like the media trying to act like an assistant coach as opposed to just a media reporter. I think that's where the drama usually happens. But, Joe, thanks a lot for your time, your talent, and your treasure, all that you do for baseball, for the decades, from the time you played for the Tigers and your Pennsylvania roots to the time you were a general manager with the Mets and the Padres to today. Thank you so much.
Okay, Greg, I just want to mention one thing, too, that you had a great figure down there who died this past year, Dave Rosenfeld. Who
sure.
I couldn't get to his funeral, so I think I was in Latin America at the time, and I just wanted to send a shout-out to Dave for all the good work he did there in that Norfolk area.
Yep, you dealt with him back in the Met Park days, so many
sure did.
Great time.
Sure did.
Well, safe travels, my friend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
It was a pleasure. Joe McIlvaine, the former New York Mets general manager. Yes, folks, we get the elite guests right here on Sports Scene, thanks to my connections also with Fox, which, of course, has got the baseball going on as well today at 5:08, Fox Sports 1, Astros and the Yankees as well. All powered by our good friends at Oh Yummy Sushi, best Japanese cuisine in Virginia. 401 North Great Neck Road. Give them a call at 631-6888. Excellent food, 7 days a week as well. Oh Yummy Sushi. We got Sports Scene more after the news and a Wizards report.
Oh, tonight is the night. I'm Dave Johnson with the Washington Wizards Shoot-Around Report. Wizards open the 2017-2018 season tonight at home against the 76ers, and for Bradley Beal,
and we're trying to accomplish something like the championship team in 77-78.
Oh, that's a goal. Now, when we last left John Wall with a home game.
Clock moves, 6 seconds. Wall well beyond the arc for three. It's there! Oh, it's there! Oh, it's there! Wall punches his postal. Wizards lead 92-91, and that might have saved the season.
I'm 8 years in. No, this is cool breeze for me. It's like I'm just ready to play. You know what I mean? In the past, yeah, you probably have jitters, but it's another year for me. Glad I'm going into it healthy, the most healthy I've ever been, and just hope to get off to a great start.
And the bottom line for the head coach, Scott Brooks.
Pretty good offensively. I think we have a lot of offensive weapons. We're one of the league leaders in points, field goal percentage, three-point percentage, but we have to get better defensively.
Wizards and 76ers tonight. We begin at 6:45 on the Washington Wizards Radio Network.
Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter @Greg Bick. Email BICOGB@hotmail.com Now back to Greg Bicouvaris in the Hampton Roads OnlineMall.com studios. It's now time for Greg's Highlights, presented by Hampton Roads OnlineMall.com.
And I want to thank Joe McIlvaine, the former New York Mets general manager, for giving his take on the postseason as well as baseball, too. We're live right here at 12:33, gjbtv.com. Hit the YouTube link for archive shows as well. Save the date for Sports Scene every Wednesday from 12 to 1. HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com. Browse, shop, visit, bookmark it. That's HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com, as well as gjbtv.com and our newest venture, HRSMHOF.com. Again, thank you to Larry Bonko for the nice spread in the pilot a few weeks ago, which you can see on HRSMHOF.com. HW Enterprises has been in business for 61 years, folks, in Newport News, serving the Peninsula and Hampton Roads. As the premier garage builder, HW Enterprises just was awarded the Daily Press Choice Award for 2017 and the Newport News Best Architect and Builder Award for 2017 as well. Give them a call at 595-4562. That's 595-4562 as well. Again, HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com for all your retail services and, of course, our restaurant needs as well. HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com and our good friends at HW Enterprises, 595-4562. Stay tuned. We'll be back after these messages.
You are listening to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris. Now, back to Greg.
Can you imagine, Joe Daniel, calling somebody up that did you wrong in your life and having this in the background? This is ominous music here.
Yeah, just heavy breathing over the phone.
It's like, hey, how's it going, John? Remember me?
Remember me from back in middle school?
Yes, we were 20 years ago. I mean, this is bone-chilling music, probably the premier horror score of all time. I mean, just the music alone is really, really spooky as well. Don't forget our good friends at CP Shuckers with locations on Shore Drive and Pacific Avenue. People love their prime rib, seafood, and much more. Like both locations on Facebook and log on to cpshuckers.com. Eat or be eaten at CP Shuckers. Watch all the big games, postseason baseball, NBA, NFL, college football at CP Shuckers with their two great locations. I want to thank Joe McIlvaine, the former New York Mets general manager, for joining us in the first half hour. Let's welcome Gina Ippolito. How are you, Gina?
I'm good, except you guys are scaring me with that music.
But it's remember, it's still daytime outside. At least it wasn't like at 8 o'clock at night we're playing this.
Yes, and at least it's bright and sunny today, so that's not spooky at all. That's great.
Well, it is October. It is, Halloween, and people love their candy and their horror movies. I'm not really big into horror movies. I've always said this to my friends. Horror movies don't scare me if the sound is down. It's all about the sound.
Yes.
Well, let's talk
Very much so.
Let's talk about your nice event a few weeks ago. Let's recap that. I was there. It was really good. Of course, it seemed like everybody had a great time.
Oh, they did. We had about 3,200 people out, again, like a couple weeks ago for the Bacon Bourbon Beach Music Festival. So it was a beautiful day. It was a little hot. I think it was about 85 degrees that day, but everybody had a great time, and we are in the process of figuring out. We do our events and donate the proceeds back to the community. So we're almost got it figured out, but it'll probably be somewhere close to $60,000 from that event will go back into our local community. So we're still getting the bills paid and doing all that, but we do a check presentation next Wednesday night. So we'll definitely have it figured out by then, but it's looking really good. So
yeah.
And we're gearing up for our next one.
Well, kudos to your staff for being so organized, for having when you're driving through the area of Smithfield, for people that don't go there that often, because it is kind of a remote location from the other part of Hampton Roads, that you've got signs like, turn here, turn there. The volunteers are really helpful. It just seems like everybody's buttoned up and on the same page.
It really is. We work with over 40 different community organizations that volunteer for our events, and that's everything from putting directional signage out on the roads to, being the ones who pour the bourbon and cook the bacon and work in the volunteer check-in tent, checking in all of those volunteers, or we have a special tent that's volunteer food. We feed our volunteers very well when they're out working on Saturday. So, it's about 400 and something different individual volunteers that come from about 40 different organizations from mostly within our community. and we then turn around and make donations back to those organizations based on the number of people and hours that they had. So it's a win-win for everybody. And then, of course, we also pick benefiting organizations that we give $10,000 to in a lump sum for the different events. And we do 7 of those annually. The Bacon and Bourbon had 2 organizations. And, again, each event is a little bit different because it depends on the profitability. But we do 7 of those annually. And then, like I said, we work with all these organizations that provide those happy volunteers that greet you at the gate or drive a golf cart and get you in from the parking lot or, help you with the checkpoint when the event is over with. So it's a great community, and everybody pitches in to make these things happen.
It surely does. It takes a lot of effort on all parts as far as, like I mentioned, organization, too. And you have several events throughout the course of the year. But tell us how people can connect on your website and social media.
Our website is www.smithfieldvaevents.com, and from there you can see the 3 different events, and you can click on whichever one you're interested in. We have one in January that's a little bit different than the other 2. It's all underneath 45,000 square feet of heated tent space. It's an Oyster Bloody Mary event. The DeLoreans are the band. And then in the spring and April, we do a Wine and Brew Fest, which is back on the same site that you were just at last weekend, over on the historic section over by the river. And then, of course, we do the Bacon Bourbon one in October. So we are gearing up for the next one in January. Tickets for that go on sale the middle of November. And all that information is on the website, or you can follow us on Facebook. Our main Facebook is Smithfield VA Events, and then each one has its own page, the Bacon Bourbon Beach Music Festival or the Bob Festival. But you can link to all of that from the website. So, again, that website is SmithfieldVAEvents.com.
Give us the date for the January event.
January is January 13th, 2018. It's the Saturday of Martin Luther King weekend. General admission tickets go on sale. We do 2 different releases. So the first release is November 15th at 7 a.m. in the morning, and then the second half of them will go on sale November 16th, which is Thursday at 8 o'clock at night. Last year, that event sold out, both of those releases, within 2 or 3 minutes. So you can purchase what we call $100 VIP early bird tickets, which are on sale now. You also get a $55 tax deduction when you purchase that ticket. Those are available now. You can book hotel rooms now, and we are in the process of renewing sponsors from last year, and we will start with new sponsorships hopefully November 1st.
Very good.
So,
well, that's great.
And there's an 8K race with that one, too. So if you're a runner, you can sign up for the 8K race starting November 1st also.
Yeah, 8K races and fall festivals are very popular during the fourth quarter of the year, gearing up toward Thanksgiving and Christmas. Well, Gina, great job by you and the staff, and we will talk to you again here very soon.
Okay, thanks, Greg, and you have a wonderful afternoon.
You too. Always good to talk to you. Thank you so much. All right.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Gina Ippolito right there from the Smithfield VA events. And that's true. You see a lot of people running. You got to be careful when you're driving. I mean, people do get, it's hard to see when it starts getting dark earlier. It's hard to see these walkers, joggers, and runners. And there's a lot of fall festivals going on where cars and the public interact.
Right, and I see a lot of runners that have headbands that have the flashlights, or they wear something that kind of flickers in order to, and wear reflective colors, or a vest or something like that. Very important, especially if you're going to run super early in the morning or late night at work.
Yeah, because fall back does start in a few weeks, so keep track of that as well. It gets dark a lot earlier. Do you like that?
I do. I mean, it helps me to get to sleep a little earlier.
That's true. People hibernate a lot more in the fall and the winter, that's for sure. All right, before we get to Buffalo Wild Wings, let's get to our question presented by Buffalo Wild Wings and Newport News to Mr. Joe Daniel. How often, we heard the Halloween score track of the movie as well, how often do you go to the movies as a family or with your wife, and when you go, do you buy concessions each time?
I don't go super often. It's typically just for the kids. I have 2 kids, and so typically it is just to go see a kids movie that we think that we all would enjoy. And yes, kind of going with kids, it's super expensive, but it's pretty much a gimme. So we go to the concessions, and we get those little kids boxes where they have a little bit of popcorn, a small little snack, and a drink. But they are expensive, and it just racks up so much. We're spending, $50, $60 easily. to go to the movies, but it's just something. It's part of the experience. When you go to a movie, in order to get the full experience of the theater, you need something to snack on.
You do, whether it's popcorn or the soda or whatever. You have to. And it just doesn't sound the same, popcorn and water. But I know people like, you got to have your water too. And I want to thank our good friends at Buffalo Wild Wings in Newport News at 12150 Jefferson Avenue, right next to Patrick Henry Mall, for great appetizers, great place to watch the NFL, Major League Baseball postseason, college football on Saturdays, of course. Heck, they play on Thursdays and Fridays too. Boneless traditional wings, salads, burgers, wraps, sandwiches. They have it all. Tenders and Macs, beverages, desserts, stuff for the kids as well. Buffalo Wild Wings right next to Patrick Henry Mall in Newport News. Wings, beer, sports. Give them a call at 249-3999. Stay tuned for more Sports Scene after this, right here on 1650 AM, 92.5 FM, tunein.com. Type in WHKT to listen on your phone or your computer. Tell your friends. All right, folks, of course, Sports Scene's got a little special treat for you right now. For you have not heard it, the audio trailer of the new Star Wars movie. Enjoy it.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special.
Something inside me has always been there. But now it's awake. And I need help.
I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then. It does now. Let the past die. Kill it. If you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be.
In all this.
You are listening to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris. Now, back to Greg.
All right, we'd like to welcome the men and women in uniform serving around the world. Listen to today's broadcast in 175 countries on tunein.com by typing in WHKT to listen on your phone or your computer. Thanks for all that you do, and we're hoping you're enjoying today's version of Sports Scene right here on 1650 AM, 92.5 FM as well. Redskins got a nice win over the 49ers, and of course Kyle Shanahan was Washington's offensive coordinator from 2010 to 13. When his father Mike was the head coach, Kirk Cousins was on the team the final two seasons, drafted in the fourth round in 2012. We'll see if the Redskins can make the postseason this year. They did not make it last year as well. Well, the Newport News Greek Festival Fall Edition starts tomorrow from 4 to 9 p.m. and, of course, on the 20th and 21st from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. at the Hellenic Center at 60 Traverse Road in Newport News. A big tradition in the fall and the spring. Let's welcome one of the key people in it, Dinos Pierrakos from Laconico. How are you?
Hello, Greg. How are you doing? Thank you so much for having me back on your show.
And it's great.
I'm excited for the fall festival.
Yeah, starts tomorrow, and of course the weather is beautiful, so you have a great time to come down. Talk about Laconico and first of all your interaction with the festival, then what you do year round.
Yes. We are our family's production, which is our one of the world's most awarded Greek extra virgin olive oils. We produce an amazing, exquisite, fruity, flavorful, buttery olive oil from the southern coast of Sparta, Greece. And for the, I believe, fifth year, we will be coming down for the Newport News Greek Festival. We're excited to once again this year be awarded and being on the list of the world's best extra virgin olive oils. Once again, our production is very unique and due to the quality and fruitiness of the varietal of olive that we produce.
Olive oil goes so well with so many different types of foods, correct?
Yes, it goes pretty much on everything. Extra virgin olive oil is amazing for from a simple sauté to especially as a finishing oil. So anything you just cooked, anything you plate, you drizzle some of our award-winning olive oil, which also comes in different infusions as well. We take our award-winning base and then we infuse it with basil, rosemary, for example. We have a blood orange, something very citrusy, very unique, amazing over seafood, or even chicken or pork. It just adds and enhances the flavor of pretty much anything and everything you drizzle it over.
It's all good, exactly. Tell us about your booth the next 3 days at the Newport News Greek Festival Fall Edition. Rain or shine, you'll be there. Talk about what you'll have on display.
Yes, we will be presenting, like I said, our family's production, our award-winning olive oil from Sparta, Greece, as well. We for the last year we teamed up with a very, very small artisan balsamic producer from Modena, Italy. So as you can see, we bring the best of Greece and the best of Italy, and we will be there at the show, drizzling and sampling all our products over. If somebody wants it over their fresh food that they just purchased, I'll drizzle some on so they can see how unique and amazing it actually adds to the dish.
Well, thank you for always supporting the fall and the spring festival as well. Go ahead and plug your website and any social media. You have a very popular Facebook page too.
Yes. You can find us for the couple of times a year that we come down for the Newport News Greek Festival. Other than that, you're able to find us online. Our website is Laconico, www.laconico.com. That is LACONIKO.com, and you can go on there, see all our products, or also order them at the time that we're not around.
Very good. All the best, my friend. We'll see you tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday at the Newport News Greek Festival Fall Edition.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and we're excited.
Very good. Drive carefully.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Very good. All right, Dinos Pierrakos right there from Laconico. Folks, they have some really good olive oil, too. Really, really good. I want to thank our good friends at Panera, the only nationwide chain that says every 1% of their items is 100% clean. Every single percent of it, 100% clean on all their food. They deliver. They do catering. They, of course, have a rapid pickup option. Go by and see the great staff over there. Really friendly staff, 7 days a week. Excellent soups and sandwiches for the fall, salads, breakfast, beverages, bagels, smoothies. Of course, a 100% clean food as it should be over at Panera Bread. Where are they at, you might ask? 6255 College Drive in Suffolk. For more, log on to PaneraBread.com. Give them a call at 483-3670. The great staff led by Brian and everybody will take good care of you. Panera, food as it should be. What tees me off?
What tees you off? Presented by HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com.
and Outback Steakhouse in Kempsville at 1255 Fordham Drive in Virginia Beach. Give them a call at 523-4832 for great steaks, seafood, pasta, appetizers, delicious salads, friendly staff as well, great steaks, chicken, ribs, chops, and more, and excellent desserts too, as well as their curbside takeaway. Watch all the NFL at Outback Steakhouse, where in Virginia Beach at 1255 Fordham Drive. The premier steakhouse in Virginia Beach is in Kempsville. Go by and see Mike and the great staff as well. Outback is all over social media. What teased me off, always a little fun as well, weather delays. Whenever you have a weather delay, whether it's a sporting event or just in general, weather can wreak havoc.
Yeah, it can. And for school, school will be getting snow and having weather delays because of the snow, or just all like cancellations because of the snow. Never a good, super inconvenient, because if you're working and now your kids are at school, now you have to take the day off of work as well, most likely.
And the good people in Colorado, sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it can be snow within a 24-hour period, not to mention the altitude. All right, this does happen as well when you're talking to somebody and you see food on their shirt.
Or on their face.
Or on your shirt, yeah.
Yeah, in the corner of their mouth, and then they purse their mouth in a certain way to fling it to your face. Somehow it always ends up that way.
I wish it could be like a fence when you're going to lunch with somebody.
Yeah.
Like put up a big wall of stuff so they won't like say it and spray it like we've talked about.
Yeah, and the worst part is like when they're all dressed up as well. They're dressed up, but they just happen to eat something that dripped onto their shirt, and here they are looking all put together, but there's that little oil stain right there on their lapel.
And that's all you're looking at when you're talking
Right.
to them. You're not making eye contact at all with their eyes as well. And especially when it happens like at 9 o'clock in the morning and you have the whole business day in front of you.
Right.
It seems like business hours, people are more uptight and in a rush. After business hours, people are less, stressed.
Yeah, unless they're on their way home, and then
Yeah.
they're probably really stressed out in traffic, of course. But by the time they get home or something after work, then they seem to relax and chill out.
But it's funny, they're rushing to get home to do what? Sit on the couch.
Precisely. Relax.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a 50-yard dash to get home. You ever heard this expression, next man up? When one person does not want to chip in or make the effort, that can really affect the whole next man up thing. You have to make it a total team effort, whether you're at work or at school. Life is about teamwork.
Yeah, absolutely. Working together. It's very rare that somebody will just accomplish many great feats on their own. They'll typically always have somebody else. Even Albert Einstein, as smart as he was, he needed somebody else to do the math for him because he had all these theories, but he wasn't good at the math. So he had to actually hire a mathematician to help actually prove his theories.
How about Monday morning meetings of any type, or long meetings in general? We talked about long meetings, but Monday morning meetings or Friday meetings are the worst.
Friday afternoon meetings. And then there's always that one person, when asked, are there any more questions? And then they slowly raise their hand up, and you're like, now we're here for another 30 minutes.
It's like all they want to do is be heard. I mean, you and I are in radio, TV. We have a soundboard. It's called the media, but most people in meetings like to be heard.
Yeah, voice their opinions, exactly what you said. Be noticed.
Last thing that teased me off for this week at least is movie spoilers. When somebody tells you all about the movie that you're about to go see next week.
While you're watching the movie. Oh, watch this part. This is my favorite part right here. And then they talk over half of it. That's the worst. I'm one of those where I like to just turn everything off, my phone, put it away. I like to watch a movie and be surrounded by the movie, like
kind of live in the moment of the movie.
Exactly. And then when you have somebody who's commentating the movie for you, that's the absolute
or
worst.
even a cell phone's light can be so bright it can distract you as well.
Oh yeah.
But there are other issues too in the movies too, like it could be too hot in there, too cold in there as well, or like you said, jibber jabberish as well. So I want to thank our great guests as far as sports scene today, Joe McIlvaine, the former New York Mets general manager, live and exclusively right here on Sports Scene. Also Gina Ippolito and Dinos Pierrakos as well. For more, go to gjbtv.com, hit the YouTube link for archive shows as well. It's gjbtv.com. Hit the YouTube link for archive shows. At Greg Bick on Twitter, GREGBIC. See all of my Twitter handles as well at gjbtv.com. Don't forget November 9th, the big announcement for the Hampton Roads Sports Media Hall of Fame. We can't wait to see who those 5 will be. For Joe Daniel, I'm Greg Bicouvaris. Happy Wednesday. We'll see you at the Newport News Greek Festival tomorrow. We'll talk to you soon.
AM 1650 WHKT Portsmouth, 92.5 FM W223CT Norfolk. For your daily supply of news and talk, we are The Answer.